My name is Henry, and for 42 years I thought I'd built something that would last. You see, I'm a retired structural engineer. I spent my entire career making sure bridges didn't fall and buildings didn't crumble. I believe in strong foundations. I really, truly do. I believed I had built one for my family, too. But, well, I learned a foundation of love and sacrifice can be destroyed in a single moment, with just a few careless words. The moment I became a ghost in my own life, I realized the only foundation you can ever truly count on is the one you build for yourself. This is the story of how I tore down the house I built with my own hands, just to save my own life. Before we get into it, if you could do me a small favor and hit that like button, I'd surely appreciate it. It helps more than you know. And if you subscribe to the channel, you won't miss what comes next. Also, I'd love to know where you're all watching from tonight, so please drop a hello in the comments. It gets a little quiet over here sometimes. The phone call that changed everything came on a Tuesday, just as I was scraping the last of my shepherd's pie from the plate. It was Eleanor's recipe, of course, my late wife. It never tasted quite the same without her here to make it, but it was a little taste of the life we used to have. The caller ID lit up with a picture of my daughter, Chloe. A smile touched my lips, a genuine one. She was my world, especially now that Eleanor was gone. "Dad, how are you holding up over there?" Her voice was like a warm blanket, full of that practiced concern that always made my chest ache with a mix of love and loneliness. I settled into Eleanor's old recliner, the leather worn smooth from all the years she spent there reading her mystery novels. "Oh, you know me, sweetheart. Just finished up dinner and was about to catch the evening news." I didn't tell her it was leftovers from 3 nights ago. I didn't mention that I'd spent the better part of the afternoon just staring at a photo of Eleanor on the mantel, wondering what she'd think of me, all alone in this big, quiet house. "Are you eating okay, Dad? You know you can order groceries online now. I showed you that app, remember?" "I'm eating just fine," I said, maybe a little too quickly. I decided to change the subject. "How's your trip going? You and Mark are in Arizona, right?" "Yes, the conference wraps up tomorrow. Mark's been a lifesaver handling most of the client meetings while I'm stuck in these endless seminars." She let out a little laugh, but even over the phone it sounded a bit forced. "Listen, Dad, I should probably run. Mark and I have a dinner thing with some potential investors." "Of course, sweetheart. You go on. I love you." "Love you too, Dad. Take care of yourself, okay?" I heard a click, but it wasn't the sharp final click of a hung-up phone. It was muffled, followed by the sound of rustling, like a phone being dropped into a purse. I was about to hang up my end when I heard their voices, faint but clear enough. It was Chloe, but her tone had changed completely. "You see what I mean, Mark? He's deteriorating. He told me yesterday he couldn't find his keys for an hour. What if he leaves the stove on? What if he falls?" My hand, resting on the receiver, froze solid. A cold that had nothing to do with the evening air spread through my chest. Then I heard Mark's voice, cold and clinical. "It's time, Chloe. He's becoming a burden, and you know it. Your dad's a good man, but he can't live alone anymore. It's not safe." A burden. The word hit me like a physical blow. "The house is worth almost $1 million now. With the Denver market, we could probably get $950, maybe even more if we get a cash offer." "Exactly." Mark sounded pleased, like a predator who'd finally cornered his prey. My daughter laughed. She actually laughed, a sound so different from the warm voice she used with me. "Oh God, Mark, you should have heard him just now. So grateful, so happy just to hear from me. He has no idea." The longer we wait, the more confused he'll get. We need to do this while he still trusts us completely. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering onto the hardwood floor that Eleanor and I had installed together 23 years ago. Every board laid by my own hands, every nail driven with dreams of our family's future. I sat there in the sudden, deafening silence of my own home, staring at Eleanor's picture. Her smiling eyes seemed to bore right through me, and for a second I thought I could hear her voice, a faint echo from years ago, warning me, "You're too generous, Henry. Don't let them take you for granted." The grandfather clock in the hallway, her anniversary gift to me, ticked on, each tick marking a second of my life that felt like a lie. They thought I was a burden. They thought I was confused. They were already spending my money, planning their new life on the ashes of mine. But I wasn't ashes yet, and I wasn't nearly as confused as they believed me to be. Something inside me, something I thought had died with Eleanor, broke wide open. But what filled the space wasn't just grief. It was a cold, hard resolve. They wanted a confused old man they could manage. Fine. I would be the most strategic, clear-headed old man they had ever underestimated. I don't know how long I sat there in the dark. An hour? 2? The house felt different, as if the walls themselves had heard my daughter's betrayal and were now holding their breath, waiting to see what I would do. When I finally stood, my legs felt unsteady, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. I walked into the kitchen and opened the old metal filing cabinet in the corner, the one where I kept receipts and records because Eleanor always said, "You never know when you might need 'em." My fingers, weathered from decades of construction work, found the files I was looking for. Tuition receipts for the University of Denver, over $50,000. I remembered working double shifts, coming home with concrete dust in my hair and my muscles screaming just so Chloe could have the education we never did. I remembered Eleanor rubbing my shoulders at this very kitchen table saying, "Henry, you're going to work yourself into an early grave." And I had said, "She's smart, Elle. She deserves every chance we can give her." The wedding receipts were in there too. $35,000 for one perfect day. I'd wanted to give them 10, but Chloe had cried. Real tears. She said she'd dreamed of this wedding her whole life. So I'd taken on a weekend job framing houses for a buddy of mine, paying for her dream with my sweat and my aching back. "Daddy, you're the best father in the world," she'd whispered during our father-daughter dance. "I'll never, ever forget this." But she had forgotten. She'd forgotten who co-signed for her first car when her credit wasn't good enough. She'd forgotten who called in a favor to get her that first marketing job out of college. And she'd definitely forgotten the 6 months she and Mark lived here, rent-free, after he lost his job. "We'll pay you back every penny, Dad, as soon as we're back on our feet," she'd promised, hugging me in the hallway. They had been back on their feet for over a year, both making good money, but that promise had faded into a convenient silence. I walked upstairs, past the room that was still painted the pale yellow Chloe had chosen when she was 16, into the master bedroom. Eleanor's side of the bed was still untouched. Her reading glasses sat on the nightstand beside a book she'd never get to finish. I opened the bottom drawer of our dresser and pulled out the deed to the house. Henry and Eleanor Hayes, purchased 1998. No loans, no cosigners, no complications. My name, and my name only, now that she was gone. Standing there in the room where we'd whispered our dreams for our daughter, where Eleanor had taken her last breath holding my hand, I felt the last of the grief burn away, leaving behind something cold and hard as steel. They wanted to put me away and sell my life's work. They thought I was too old, too confused, and too grateful for their scraps of attention to fight back. I looked at Eleanor's picture on the nightstand. "Promise me you'll take care of yourself, Henry," she'd whispered in those final days. "You're too good. Don't let people walk all over you." I had failed that promise, but starting tonight, I was going to keep it. I walked into my small home office and pulled a business card from my desk drawer. It was for a man named Arthur Davidson, an estate lawyer Eleanor had insisted we see after her diagnosis. "Just to have our ducks in a row," she had said. It was time to get my ducks in a row. They were about to find out that this confused old man knew exactly how to read a blueprint, and I was about to draw up a new one from my life. The next morning, I walked through the house with new eyes. I wasn't seeing a home anymore. I was seeing what Chloe and Mark saw, an asset, a commodity. In the kitchen, I ran my hand over the granite countertop I'd installed myself. I remembered spending an entire weekend getting the cuts just right, because Eleanor had fallen in love with a picture in a magazine. In the living room, I saw the bay window I had built for her, a reading nook, where she'd sit for hours with a cup of tea. It had cost me 6 months of overtime pay, but her smile when she saw it finished, that had been priceless. Now all of it, the labor, the love, the sacrifice, was just a number on a ledger in my daughter's mind. The law offices of Davidson and Associates were in a modest brick building, the kind of place that didn't need fancy decor to prove its worth. Arthur Davidson was a man in his late 50s with kind eyes and a patient air. He remembered me and Eleanor. "Mr. Hayes, good to see you, though I'm sorry for the circumstances," he said, pouring me a cup of coffee. "Thank you," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I need your advice on a delicate family matter." I told him everything. The phone call, the plan to sell my house, the casual cruelty in their voices. He listened without interruption, his expression never changing, but I saw him shake his head slightly when I described their plan to use my money for their dream house. "Unfortunately, Mr. Hayes, this is a story I've heard before, but let's be clear on the facts. The house title is in your name only, correct?" "That's right." "Then legally, they can't do a thing. They cannot sell your property. They cannot force you into a care facility. They cannot touch your assets without your explicit, legally documented consent. This house is yours, period." A wave of relief washed over me, so powerful I felt lightheaded. It was followed by a sharp, clarifying thought. "So, if I wanted to sell it myself—" Arthur looked at me, really looked at me for the first time. "You could put it on the market this afternoon if you wanted to. It's your decision." He paused. "May I ask why you're considering that?" "They think I'm helpless," I said, the words coming out harder than I intended. "They think they can just manage me and my life away. Maybe it's time I showed them just how capable I still am." Arthur leaned forward, a small, understanding smile on his face. "The Denver market is on fire right now. A property like yours, in your neighborhood, well-maintained, it would sell in days, likely for cash, above asking price." "How fast is fast?" "With a cash buyer, we could potentially close in as little as 10 business days." 10 days. Chloe and Mark would be back in 8. My heart started hammering against my ribs, but it wasn't from fear. It was from the thrill of possibility. "Let's do it. Let's sell it before they get back." That afternoon, a realtor named Brenda, a no-nonsense woman Arthur recommended, walked through my home. Unlike my daughter, she didn't see a burden. She saw craftsmanship. "Wow," she said, running a hand over the custom-built bookcases flanking the fireplace. "You just don't see work like this anymore. An original owner who took pride in their home. This is a gold mine, Mr. Hayes." She told me we could list it for $950,000. The number stole my breath. Brenda said she had an investment group that bought properties like mine for cash, and they could close in a week. That night, my phone rang. It was Chloe, her voice bubbling with fake sweetness. "Dad, just calling to check in. I have the most wonderful news. We found the most beautiful place for you to take a little vacation. It's more like a resort, really, with medical staff on hand, just in case." "That sounds thoughtful, sweetheart," I managed to say, my grip on the phone tightening. "We'll be back on Friday," she said. "We were hoping you could be ready to go by then. Just pack the essentials." The essentials. My life reduced to a suitcase. "Actually, Chloe," I said, a plan solidifying in my mind, "I have a surprise for you two when you get back as well." "Oh, Dad, how sweet! What is it?" she asked, no doubt thinking I was giving her power of attorney or signing some document to make her theft easier. "You'll see," I said. "It's something I've been working on.
I think you'll be very, very surprised. Over the next week, my life became a secret operation. I signed the listing agreement with Brenda. An investment group made a full-price cash offer within 24 hours. The inspection was a formality. The inspector was more impressed than critical. I spent my days sorting through 25 years of memories, deciding what to keep. I packed Eleanor's jewelry box, our wedding album, the handful of photos that truly mattered. I found a small, furnished apartment in a quiet senior community, the kind of place Eleanor and I had talked about for our far-off golden years. I paid the deposit and first month's rent in cash. The closing was scheduled for Thursday, the day before Chloe and Mark were due to return. I walked into the title company office, feeling like a spy in my own life. I signed the papers, my hands steady, transferring the deed of the home I'd built to strangers. An hour later, an email confirmed the wire transfer. $950,000 minus fees was sitting in my new personal bank account at an institution Chloe and Mark had never even heard of. My first act as a free man was to call a 24-hour locksmith. "I need every lock on my house changed immediately," I said. The locksmith, a man named Eddie, replaced the old brass locks Eleanor had chosen with new, high-security silver ones. He handed me the new keys, and they felt like keys to a different life. My last task was the most important. I took a piece of my best stationery, the kind Eleanor saved for important letters, and wrote my final message. Dear Chloe and Mark, if you are reading this, it means you've discovered your keys no longer work. I imagine you're confused. Let me make it clear. I overheard your phone call. I heard you call me a burden. I heard you planning to sell my house, my life's work, to fund your own dreams. So I made a business decision of my own. The house has been sold for $950,000. The money is in an account you will never touch. I have moved on. Your belongings, which you so carelessly left in my home, are packed and at a storage facility. You have 30 days to claim them before they are disposed of. You wanted me to be less of a burden. Consider it done. Love. Dad.
I taped the note to the inside of the front door, but I needed to see their faces. I needed that closure. So I did one last thing. I drove to an electronics store and bought a tiny, wireless camera, the kind that looks like a phone charger. I returned to the house one last time, parked in the garage, and plugged it into an outlet near the front door. The lens aimed perfectly. I synced it to an app on my new smartphone. Friday afternoon arrived. I sat in my new, sterile apartment, a cup of coffee in my hand, my phone propped up on the table, watching the live feed of my old front door. It felt like watching a movie, a tense drama, where I already knew the ending. At 5:15 p.m., their SUV pulled into the driveway. My heart pounded in my chest. I watched them walk to the door, casual and entitled. I watched Chloe put her key in the lock. I saw her frown. I saw her try again, her movements becoming more frantic. "That's weird," her voice crackled through my phone speaker. "My key isn't working." I saw Mark try the back door, then return, his face a mask of confusion. "The locks have been changed, Chloe. Someone changed all the locks." Panic began to set in. I watched my daughter, my agile, athletic daughter, struggle to climb through the kitchen window I'd purposely left unlatched. A few moments later, the front door swung open. They stepped inside, and both of them froze. They saw the envelope. I leaned closer to my phone, my breath held tight. I watched Chloe's hands tremble as she tore it open. I watched their faces shift from confusion to disbelief, and then to pure, unadulterated horror as they read my words. "He sold the house!" Chloe's voice was a strangled whisper that quickly escalated into a shriek. "He sold the house! How could he do this?" Mark snatched the note from her, his face turning blotchy red. "That manipulative old bastard! He played us! He was playing us the entire time!" $950,000? Chloe was sobbing now, great heaving sobs of greed and loss. That money was supposed to be our future, our house in the mountains. Your future? Mark rounded on her, his mask of the doting husband gone completely. This is your father, Chloe. You were supposed to have him under control. You're the one who said he was getting confused. My fault? She screamed back, the civility between them shattered. You're the one who called him a burden. You're the one who couldn't wait to get your hands on this house. They were fighting, really fighting, surrounded by the beautiful home they had lost, blaming each other for underestimating the confused old man they had planned to discard. They were fighting like wounded animals, their dream life turning to dust before their very eyes. I'd seen enough. I turned off the camera feed. The silence in my little apartment was profound. I walked to my small kitchen, opened a bottle of wine, one I'd been saving for an anniversary with Eleanor that never came, and poured myself a glass. I raised it to her photograph on my nightstand. Well, Elle? I finally took care of myself. I said, my voice thick with emotion. The wine tasted like freedom. I looked out my new window at a city I was just getting to know again. I was no longer a burden. I was no longer a man waiting for my life to be taken from me. I was Henry. And for the first time in a long time, I was the sole architect of my own future. My foundation was finally truly my own.